Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another point of view video. This time I'm joined by the Suzuki Ignis, the facelifted version, and yes, let's take you out for a drive. Now, as you may be able to see, the daylight is fading, so this will have to be hopefully one take. Yes, filming today has been quite frantic. I've had lack of daytime and lack of time as a whole. Anyway, you don't really care about that, do you? Okay, away we go. Right, the road is quite bumpy down here, so if there's some shaking from my head, I can only apologise. I am trying to keep my head as rigid as possible. So yes, the brand new Suzuki Ignis. Like the last car, it is powered by a 1.2 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine, which has a mild hybrid system. But for the facelift, the hybrid system has been improved. Therefore, this car now offers better fuel economy. Speaking of which, on a combined run, Suzuki states this engine is good for up to 51.9 mpg. And in regard to emissions, this car emits 123 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £165. In regard to insurance group, you're looking at 19. Now that's the fuel economy out of the way. What about the performance? Now, obviously a lot of you won't be purchasing this car based on its performance, and that's just as well, because to get to 62 miles per hour, it will take a pedestrian 12.8 seconds. Right, just go back a bit. A little bit of a blind corner. Oh, RS4. Oh, that's nice. Good to go. The top speed, in case you're wondering, is 103 miles per hour. So a car for speed, this is not, but of course that isn't what it was built for. It's built to be relatively practical, easy to drive, and a general little runabout for A to B, specifically in town. Now this car is of course a small SUV / city car, but unlike other small SUVs which look like they can go off-road but in fact they can't, this actually has a proper four-wheel drive system. So it's got Suzuki's AllGrip system. Therefore, if you live in rural places or you want to have that extra bit of traction, or maybe you do a little bit of off-roading here and there, maybe a bit of soft roading, then this should have you covered. Now, if you don't want or need four-wheel drive, you can have the Ignis in two-wheel drive, so it will be front-wheel drive. The Ignis is available in 3 trim levels: SZ3, SZT and SZ5. I've got the latter, so I've got the range-topping SZ5. This car that I'm sat in is almost £18,500. That may seem expensive, but this has got the four-wheel drive system and it's also got the optional paint. So this is finished in rush yellow with a contrasting black roof. What do you get as standard? Well, you get 16-inch alloys, LED headlights, keyless entry, privacy glass. In the cabin I've got auto air conditioning, got a touchscreen with DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity and navigation, got automatic headlights, cruise control. Hey, Mark on MX-5. Oh yeah, sorry, I got a bit distracted there. Cruise control, speed limiter. I've also got safety features such as autonomous emergency braking, lane departure warning, so if I go out my lane, there you go. I've got a big amber warning message. I've got weave alert as well, and I've got 6 airbags. So this does offer a fair amount of kit, I'm sure you'll agree. I've also got a reversing camera, which I almost forgot about. Because this has got the AllGrip system, I've also got hill descent control and grip control. So for a small car, it's well kitted out. Now if you want to save yourself a bit of money, or perhaps money's tight, then the base model SZ3 is available from almost £14,500. I think more specifically it is 14,429 if I'm not mistaken. And as you can imagine, it doesn't offer as much, but you still get air conditioning. I'm pretty sure you get DAB radio and Bluetooth and central locking, front electric windows. That's pretty much your lot. Now, what is the Ignis like to drive? Well, as you may hear, on roads like this at faster speeds, it is quite a noisy car. Refinement is certainly not the Ignis's forte, but let's be honest, this is more designed for town driving than it is for this kind of driving. So there's a fair amount of road noise coming in from the Bridgestone Eco-Pia tyres, and there's a bit of wind noise as well coming from the wing mirrors. But on the plus side, the Ignis is easy to drive. All of the controls are light. I've got a 5-speed manual gearbox at my disposal. The changes are quite light, but they are precise. However, if you don't want to have a manual, there is also now a choice of a CVT if you want an automatic transmission. Well, continuously variable transmission. I personally would go for the manual. As well as the light controls, the Ignis is comfortable as well. The seats are very soft. In fact, the bolstering is a bit too soft. I could do with a bit more support. The ride is supple, the damping is good. Yes, the ride can be disturbed by potholes or divots in the road, but this is a light car with a short wheelbase. Therefore, it is going to be jolted or disturbed by imperfections in the road. It's just how it is. Speaking of the sides of this car, let's go straight actually. Speaking of the sides of this car, its length is 3.7 metres, which is about twice my height. I'm 6'2", so not exactly a long car, is it? And the width is just 1.7 metres. In fact, once I'm on a straighter bit, I can almost touch the front passenger window just by stretching my left arm out. That gives you an idea of how narrow and compact this car is. And that makes it perfect for driving around town, because you can navigate tight city centres or multi-storey car parks, and the turning circle of this car is pretty impressive. Now, to go back to the ride, it can be a little bit busy sometimes, but on the whole, I've got no complaints with it. Like the pre-facelift, the steering is quite numb. It's quite woolly. It doesn't really give you, well, any communication really. But on the plus side, it does get heavier as you build up speed, which is good. Around town though, it's nice and light, making manoeuvring very easy indeed. Unlike the previous version of the Ignis, the facelift version can only be had with the mild hybrid system I touched upon earlier. The old car, you can have it without that and save yourself a bit of money, but now you can't. That's because Suzuki, as a brand, like a lot of car manufacturers, are trying to bring down their CO2 emissions across the board, and that's why the Jimny, for the time being, is dead, which is quite sad, because it's a fun little car. It's a fantastic off-roader. But I think Suzuki are attempting to get around it by making it into a commercial vehicle. So fingers crossed the Jimny may come back. Whee! Little puddle. Even though, sorry, let me start again. Even though this is a small car, even at its lowest, the driver's seat, you get quite a commanding driving position. The steering wheel doesn't adjust for rake and reach, it only adjusts for rake, but to be fair, that's not uncommon for this class of car and also at this price point, so that's not a complaint. The driver's seat has got a good level of adjustment. The ergonomics in here are absolutely fine. Everything's simplistic to use. The buttons are chunky. I like the controls for the auto air conditioning. Again, they're really chunky, easy to operate even if you had winter gloves on. And thankfully, Suzuki has not fallen into the trap of putting the aircon controls within the infotainment screen. No, I get good old-fashioned physical controls. Thank you, Suzuki. I much prefer that. Don't get me wrong, I like my touchscreens, but I prefer to have a proper kind of dial or some physical setup for the climate control or the air conditioning. Let's touch upon visibility. Visibility in the Ignis is good. The wing mirrors are of a good size. The rear windows also of a good size, despite the car's small size. Okay, the C-pillar is quite thick, so visibility over the shoulder isn't fantastic. I will demonstrate that in a few moments when it's a bit safer to do so. This is quite tight, and all of a sudden you pick up a lot of speed because it's quite a steep hill. You do have to be focused on what you're doing. Now you may spot that icon that flashes up towards the bottom right of the speedo. Because this car has got a mild hybrid system, that means it does of course have regenerative braking. So when you're cruising or when you're braking like I am now, the car's clever system is able to recuperate, make sure I drop down to 30, is able to recuperate the energy that would normally be lost, and it's able to feed it back into the battery. Now compared to the last car, the battery in the hybrid system has got 10 amp hours compared to 3 as it did previously. That means this system is more efficient. Now, I'm at a standstill, so let me demonstrate the visibility over the shoulder. Hopefully you can see that, but the C-pillar is quite thick, so that's worth bearing in mind. Right, away we go. Let's touch upon the way how the car drives. Some of you may think that with actually I don't think I've even given you the power outputs, have I? So this engine produces 83 horsepower along with 107 newton meters of torque. If you would like that as a subtitle, if you would like that in pound feet, I should say, then I will drop a subtitle below if I can get my words out. It's been a long day, leave me alone. It's been a very frantic day of filming. I've had to squeeze this in just as the daylight is fading. And yeah, got a lot on my mind. Tomorrow is a big day. My wife is going to be giving birth. Not that many of you need to know that or really care. But by the time this video goes out, I'll have a lovely baby girl. Right, as there's a corner coming up, let's touch upon the handling. The handling is pretty good, even though this car has got skinny tyres. The cross section is 175mm, and these are of course eco tyres. Oh, look at that sky, by the way, that's lovely. The grip in the corners is pretty good. Yes, there is a fair amount of body lean, but you have to expect that from this kind of car. But because this car is light, in fact this car weighs just 940 kilograms, believe it or not. It's agile through the corners, and you can really chuck it in. It is actually quite impressive. Okay, the steering is numb, as I mentioned. The brakes could, in my opinion, the brakes could do with being better. They're not bad and they don't feel dangerous, but at the same time they just feel a bit spongy. I just don't have that bite that I would really want. Granted, this isn't a hot hatch or anything like that, but at the same time, when you initially dab the brake pedal, not a lot happens, and in all honesty, it doesn't inspire confidence. On the plus side, at least the brake pedal has got a good feel to it. I've driven some cars with regenerative braking, and you don't get much feedback from the brake pedal. There's not a lot of communication. There's no such complaints in the Ignis. Yeah, this is quite a fun car to drive. It's not perfect, but What I love about the Ignis is just look at it. Oh, look at that, it's TVR. That's very nice. Was that Tuscan? I'm really rusty on my TVR knowledge. But just look at the car's face. You can tell this is a car that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a very joyous little thing. If this were an animal, it would be an excitable little dog that just wants to go for walkies and run and fetch balls. It's a happy little thing, and I like that. We all need a bit of happiness right now in these tough, unprecedented... get your words out, Aaron. Unprecedented times. There we go. Got there on the second attempt. Oh, puddle. Woo! I don't know why, but when I drive this car, I get a sudden urge to drive through puddles. I have no idea how long I've been speaking for, but by this point, the light is probably starting to fade in here. So I think I'll start to wrap up. This probably hasn't been quite as long as some of my other point of view videos. But yes, I am fighting Mother Nature. In fact, I've been fighting her all weekend because I was filming yesterday and the weather was, absolutely awful. And it cost me a lot of time. But I must admit, Mother Nature has gifted me with quite a nice sunset. Got into fifth. Now, if you're looking for me to speak about boot space and practicality, that will of course come in the full review. This is very much a point of view video. Hopefully, you should know that by the title. But I did have someone comment on another point of view video the other day, moaning that I hadn't shown the boot or anything like that. So, well, it's a point of view. It's a driving video. And he moaned about a few other bits. I went back to him. I said, well, it's a point of view video. It's just me driving whilst talking. And I'm giving you guys my point of view, hence point of view. Oh well. You can't please everyone in life. That's what they say. It's a shame that Suzuki don't make this with the 1 litre booster jet engine. I think that would be a really good combination. What I suspect is because Suzuki is afraid that by fitting the booster jet in this, well, A, it will make the car more expensive, and B, could potentially take sales away from the Swift. But still, I'd like to see that. I'd love to see an Ignis Sport. So they did an Ignis Sport back in the day, but I don't think there's going to be any plans to make one for this generation, which is sad really, because I think that'd actually be quite a good car. Not that this isn't, but I just think like an Ignis Sport, I think Suzuki is missing a trick there, if I'm going to be honest. But hey, I'm sure they've got their reasons. Blooming lane departure warning, a bit sensitive. But the autonomous emergency braking, that's quite sensitive as well. Probably a bit too sensitive in all honesty. To the point where you're almost tempted to turn it off, which defeats the object. What's the point of having a safety system you're going to turn off? Just defeats the object, doesn't it? Right. And let's pull into this car park and wrap up on what has been a very busy day of filming, but I've got there. there we go, guys. Another point of view video done and dusted. I do hope you have enjoyed it. Granted, it may have been a little bit frantic, a bit haphazard, but I wanted to make sure I could bring this video to you guys. But yes, it has been a little bit rushed. If you have enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.